Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. So as you can tell, I am a massive keratin treatment fan, but nothing in life is perfect and keratin treatments is no exception to that. And there's actually quite a few serious negatives that can come along with keratin treatments. And I think it's really important on this channel, while I want to, show some of the benefits and show why I use keratin treatments to help me manage my curly hair, I do also want to make sure that this channel is transparent and balanced and shows you as well the other side of keratin treatments. So that's why in today's video, I'm going to be going through the top 6 watch outs when it comes to keratin treatments, because unfortunately some of them can be quite serious. So if you've watched other YouTubers talking about some of the negative sides of keratin treatments, you might have heard or seen them talking about stringy curls or just sections of hair that won't revert back and is kind of stuck being straight, whereas other parts of their hair has kind of reverted back to that curl texture. You might have just heard them talking about their hair feeling like brittle or just damaged in general.
I'm having like relaxer flashbacks. Like I feel like I have a relaxer in my hair right now and I just didn't blow dry it yet.
And I think what's really important to note actually with a lot of these cases, maybe not all, but a lot, this damage is actually caused by heat damage. If you look at the ingredients list, a lot of the time the ingredients actually can be really beneficial and help strengthen your hair. It's full of proteins, but the real issue comes with the application recommended. So to use a keratin treatment, you'll often see hairdressers going over small sections of hair 8, 9, 10 times at crazy levels of heat. We're talking about up to 220 degrees. And to go over one small section at 220 degrees up to 8 times is just crazy. And to top it off, they'll then say, okay, you can get a keratin treatment every 3 months if you want. And it's already such a lot of heat to use in one go the first time. Then you might use heat in between your keratin treatment, your first one, and then your second one. And then to then go in again for your second keratin treatment at that level of heat. I'm not a trichologist, I'm not a scientist, but I do suspect that, at some point you probably are likely to get heat damage, even if the hairdressers will say that you're not likely to. So I think it's just about being really careful with the level of heat applied. And so for me, when I do my keratin treatment, sometimes I'll just go over sections 2 times, max 3 times, and I'll straighten it on 180 degrees. And I try and space out my treatments as well, so they're not too close together. And I try not to straighten my hair too much in between doing keratin treatments. And I do that because at the end of the day, like, the result that I want is I still want to have my curls. I'm not looking for like a permanent straight look. I'm not looking for a relaxer here. I'm just looking for curls that are more manageable, give me that bit more length, feel softer, and some of the other benefits that I've mentioned in my other videos. So yeah, I personally like to use less heat. Now, it is important to note that there might be a trade-off there. So by using less heat, it's likely that the treatment will not last as long, or the results might not be as drastic as what some people might want. So for example, say if someone actually prefers to wear their hair straight most of the time, or they significantly want to loosen their curl pattern, they'll probably have to use quite a bit more heat to kind of get that type of result. And at that point you are risking damage. Whereas I'm happy for, my curls to stay as is. I'm not looking for them to be drastically loosened. And on top of that, I would rather that my treatment only lasted 2 months or 2.5 months than lasted 3, 4, 5 months, but my hair was damaged as a result of the treatment. But it really does depend kind of what the outcome is that you're looking for. And I think the other thing to note as well is the amount of heat used depends on your hair type. So I have quite fine hair. I also have parts of my hair that are bleached. So I can actually get away with using a little bit less heat, but still seeing kind of good results. Whereas if you've got, very thick hair, you might have to use a bit more heat to actually get a good result, even if it's just improved manageability. And I think the main thing is, you know, then in that case, just using lots of heat protectant. I still use heat protectant when even if I just go over a section once. Heat protectant is so key. And if you can protect your hair while you're doing the treatment and make sure it's not heat damaged, keratin treatments can actually be really strengthening to your hair and really help your hair grow, which they've definitely done for me. So number 2 is that you have to be careful because keratin treatments can actually appear to thin your hair out. One of the benefits of keratin treatments is that they reduce frizz, which is, you know, something that a lot of people will look for. But in doing so, if you think frizz can naturally help hair appear to have more volume and be thicker than it actually is, by reducing that frizz, your hair will lay flatter, which means you're actually going to see less volume. And actually in some countries, they even call keratin treatments volume reducers. So it's actually like a known thing that, you know, your volume will be reduced and your hair might appear to be thinner. So if you're someone who has very thin hair, or is someone that is just, you know, where volume is actually something that's really important to you and you really want to maintain, then keratin treatments probably will not be for you. Probably best off finding something else because your hair is going to lay a lot flatter. So the third, more serious watch out when it comes to keratin treatments is all around formaldehyde. Formaldehyde is actually a gas that is released when the treatment is straightened into your hair. When it gets up to a certain temperature, that's when formaldehyde can actually be released into the air as a gas. And this is where the really serious problems can come in, because formaldehyde has actually been linked to cancer. And there was loads of bad press about this years ago, and it's still actually continued now. And that's where we've really seen the emergence of a lot of treatments saying they're formaldehyde free. You do need to check, are they actually formaldehyde free? Because that's a real issue, and I'm going to come on to that in a second. But yeah, so, you know, definitely a more serious one is obviously the health concerns that can come with using a keratin treatment that has formaldehyde in it. And the treatments, they have got better over the years, but you still have to be really careful. Okay, so watch out number 4 is big watch out that, you know, a lot of people are already aware of, is keratin treatments, particularly in the salon, can be incredibly expensive. Now, often, you know, when you go to the salon, you'll see places charging, you know, £200 to get a keratin treatment done, or £150, which is a lot of money to pay, potentially up to every 3 months, if that's how often you would be getting the keratin treatment done. And it's not one of those where you necessarily want to be like, okay, let me find the best deal or get the cheapest keratin treatment on the market, because a lot of these cheaper keratin treatments, not always, but some, you know, can actually have quite harmful chemicals in, where they've got lots of fillers or lots of things that shouldn't actually be in keratin treatments. And I've read a few stories about people getting keratin treatments through like deal sites. And while I'm sure a lot of them have good experiences, I've seen some horror stories on there with, you know, for example, people getting treatments that contain formaldehyde when they shouldn't, things like that. So, you know, definitely a real frustration and a real watch out is the price of keratin treatments. You know, if you're looking for a way to manage your curly hair with keratin treatments like long term, it is quite an expensive option if you're going to opt in to get it done in the salon. And that actually leads me on to watch out number 5, which is all around keratin treatments you can do at home. So if you're like me and you were like, I'm not going to be paying £200 to get a keratin treatment done in the salon every 3 months, it's a crazy amount of money. So that's when I started looking online for cheaper alternatives that I could do at home. And I bought a few treatments on Amazon. And while myself, I didn't have any terrible experiences, I actually do have quite a few family and friends that had bad experiences with treatments that they bought on Amazon, mainly because it's just completely not regulated. It's really terrible. You have no idea where these treatments are being sourced from. A lot of the time they're being sourced from China. They claim to be one thing when they're actually another. And I'm actually going to do a whole other video on the dangers and the darker side of home keratin treatments that you can buy, and how you just need to be really careful with what you're buying, because there's so many bad actors out there. And yeah, I've got some stories that I could tell you, but I'll be telling you in that video, so I'll save it for now. But yeah, it's just, you know, definitely a big watch out is to be really careful with some of the home keratin treatments. So the last one is kind of the more extreme end. Again, so it's not happened to me personally, but I have heard of other people having kind of their hair really not reacting well, you know, experiencing hair loss, split ends, breakage, hair not reverting back, like in terms of curl patterns and things like that. And you might have seen similar stories on YouTube. And while this has not happened to me personally, my sister did have a bad experience after using one of the home keratin treatments on Amazon. And someone actually on my first video left a comment saying that they were experiencing hair loss after getting a keratin treatment, which is obviously, you know, absolutely horrible, and I would not wish that on anyone. And some of these things could be linked to some of the things that I've already talked about. So for example, using excessive heat when getting keratin treatments done, you know, and actually going up to 220 degrees, going over each small section up to 8 times, you know, you are going to get some heat damage, which can lead to split ends and breakage. Other things that it could be is keratin is the protein that our hair is made up of, and actually a lot of these keratin treatments contain keratin and other proteins as well. So you're putting a lot of proteins back into your hair. If you're protein sensitive, you know, that can cause a negative reaction, which can lead to a lot of problems. Or if you actually have already done say if you do a protein treatment a couple of days before, you know, that can lead to is protein overload. And because you've added too much protein to your hair, too much protein can actually make your hair brittle. So, you know, you need to be careful as well, in the sense that just to remember that a keratin treatment is a protein treatment. And just like you would with other protein treatments, you just have to be careful that you're not adding too much protein to your hair and you're not overdoing it, which can make your hair brittle. So all in all, I would say, you know, I appreciate some of those are quite extreme and obviously very serious, but my top tips would be to kind of counter against all of these would be, number one, limit the amount of heat if possible, and if you are going to use the recommended amount of heat, really make sure you're protecting your hair with a heat protectant, because it's a lot of heat to be using, and over time, especially without a heat protectant, you probably will get some heat damage. So use less heat if you don't mind the treatment not lasting as long, or if you're going to use the recommended amount of heat, use a heat protectant. Number two, if you're worried about your hair being on the thinner side, or volume is something that's really important to you, you probably don't want to get a keratin treatment. Number three, try and opt for formaldehyde-free treatments where possible. If you're getting it done in the salon, make sure you check with them if it's formaldehyde free, and just be careful, because a lot of them will claim to be formaldehyde free and they technically won't have formaldehyde on the ingredients list, but actually some of the other ingredients they've used when heated can still release formaldehyde. So you've got to be really careful that the treatments are actually formaldehyde free and don't just claim to be. Number four, keratin treatments can be really expensive to get done in the salon, so just be aware of that. And if you are going to opt for a cheaper version, like a cheaper home version, that's fine. I do that. I use home keratin treatments because it's too much to get it done in the salon every 3 months, but just be careful and really know which brand you're buying from and that it's a good reputable brand. And I appreciate that that's easier said than done. And then lastly, you know, take all of these tips into consideration, but go easy on the protein before and after having a keratin treatment, because too much protein is not always a good thing, and do a patch test if possible. And that is everything. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you've got any experiences with keratin treatments, good or bad, please leave a comment and share below so myself and others can hear from you and learn from your experience as well. A lot of these do seem really negative. Personally, I've never experienced heat damage with keratin treatments, and I've been getting them on and off for coming up to 7 years now. And my hair does appear thinner, but it's not actually been too much of an issue for me. And I'm sure there are some good brands out there. You just have to work a little bit harder to find them, but if you find a good keratin treatment that works for you, your hair really can get stronger, it can grow, it can be more manageable. So I think it's good just to be aware of a lot of the watch outs and just things that could happen. And just if you're sensible and just take some of the steps that I've mentioned, you should be fine, and you can hopefully enjoy some of the benefits of keratin treatments as well. So that's everything from me. Thank you so much for watching this video. I will continue to do hopefully some balanced videos. So while most of my videos are going to be talking about the benefits and other things that you can get from keratin treatments, I will hopefully be doing another one soon with my sister. Actually, is going to come and talk about her learnings from her keratin treatment that she did that didn't really go as well, and you know, learnings that she has for next time. So thank you again, and stay safe with everything that's happening in the world at the moment, and take care. Thank you so much. Bye.